What's up everyone, welcome to this POV review by AutoTopNL. My name is Max and today we've got a big one. Well, we've got a small one. It's the Volkswagen Up GTI and well, it's kind of a cool car. And in this review I will try to tell and show you why that is. But first we'll walk around it, I'll show you all the cool features on it, and then we'll take it for a drive on this beautiful road right here. So we borrowed it at Auto Arena in Venlo in the Netherlands. So if you're interested, go check them out if you're in the Netherlands. And well, for starters, I think it looks kind of cool. It's a bit chunky, quite sporty looking. Of course, because it's a GTI, we've got a GTI badge in the grille and this red stripe, sporty front bumper, some sporty wheels as well, which are 17-inch, I believe. Yep, with brake calipers painted in red. We've got a black stripe going down the side, which is sort of a throwback to the first Golf GTI. GTI badge right there, black mirror caps, black spoiler on the rear, another GTI badge, another red stripe, and a little exhaust over there. And well, let's start with that throwback. No, let's start. It actually has drum brakes at the rear. How cool is that? Discs at the front, drums at the rear. Okay, let's start with that throwback to the first Golf GTI. These days a Golf is much larger than it used to be, of course, and the Golf GTI used to be this super light fun car. It weighed 800 kilos and it had 110 horsepower, and still, you know, that was enough to be a fun car. And nowadays a Golf needs at least 230 or 245 horsepower to be fun adjacent. And that's because it's way too heavy and too comfortable and not sharp enough and not playful enough. So you'd think that Volkswagen did the right thing by making this a GTI. The question is, does it deserve the badge? And I think it does, because it only weighs 970 kilos and it has 115 horsepower. So I'll show you the engine. There it is, the little power plant, 999 cc's. So it's a 3-cylinder, but it is turbocharged, and that means that it also has 200 Newton meters of torque. When we look at the interior, another GTI badge right here, and of course the quintessential GTI tartan fabric seats, which are actually one piece, so I quite like that. I think that looks pretty cool. And well, the interior is seriously impressive on this car. I'm just going to start it up. So the air conditioning can do its work. It is seriously impressive, this interior, because it's a really small car, but it still feels quite spacious in here and big enough to fit 2 adults or even more in the back. And it also feels quite luxurious for such a small, cheap car. And I think that's really cool. I love the steering wheel, just a regular GTI steering wheel with the bottom flattened, leather, red stitching, GTI badge. This all looks pretty cool as well, with a little screen that even has a reversing camera right there. That's pretty cool as well. Yeah, I think this looks really cool. We also have this smartphone mount on top with a USB port at the rear. And well, I'll show you some cool stuff about that later on. And this car also has the Beats audio system. which means that if we open this double, this is actually also quite convenient. And if we open this one as well, this is a subwoofer. So if you have a spare wheel, which this doesn't, I think, if you have a spare wheel, you have to disconnect the subwoofer with this cable and then loosen this and get the spare wheel out. Or first get the subwoofer out and then get the spare wheel out, which is quite ingenious, I have to say. Okay, yeah, let's start with this, because we have an app here on this phone. Let me just check what it's called again. The up exclamation point maps and more. So if you download this app and connect it to the Bluetooth of the car, you can have all these menus and displays on your phone, sort of extending from this one. So if you select navigation on this system right here, it switches on your phone, and well, you have to download these maps. I'm not going to do that because we're not going to use it, but so you use the navigation on your phone. You can also check out live data with a temperature and rev counter. It's a bit laggy, but you know, it's a cool gimmick. The only thing I don't like is that these are the only two things you can choose. So why would you make them switchable? I don't understand, because you know, you just end up with two of the same or these two. So don't really get that. You can use these buttons, as I said, to operate that. So you can have your trip computer stuff in here. You can search for names in here with that one, so you can draw on here, and it searches your contacts, so you can call someone. And it also has a lap timer, so you can go 3, 2, 1, and then you can go, and then you can press a lap every time you cross, start, finish. And when you stop, you also see your average speed and the max speed. Pretty cool, right? I kind of like it. I think it suits the sort of fun character of this car. It also has a GTI badge on the gear lever, and it has a 6-speed manual. That's the only available gearbox in here. You don't get a DSG or anything. And this is also the only up available with a 6-speed manual. So I think that alone is reason enough to buy a GTI instead of a regular up. Okay, and when you start driving it, you get that lovely rumbling little 3-cylinder engine at the front. That's always nice, you know. If you have an engine with an uneven number of cylinders, you always get that sort of irregular sound, that rumble. It's just fun. I don't know why, but I think this is a really charming little car. Well, I do know why, because it sounds cool, it looks cool, it's not that expensive. This car costs 19,000 something in the Netherlands, which is really cheap. And that's what I've said before, that in the hot hatch world we've gone, you know, there has been this horsepower war going on, and everything is getting more powerful, more serious as well, with 4-wheel drive systems. But the original hot hatch is just a fun, light little car. The Golf GTI, the Golf 1 GTI. And this sort of goes back to that. It's not expensive, it's not that fast, but it's, you know, it's quick enough. It sounds cool, it looks cool, it's reasonably practical as well, and you know, it's just a really cool city car. It also is still quite comfortable when you drive it regularly. The steering is very light, the gearbox is very light as well, so those are positives if you just look at if you just look at it like a city car, but those are negatives when you start looking at it as a sort of a warm hatchback. It's not a hot hatch. Let's get that out of the way. It's a warm hatchback, warm hatch. So the steering is very light and the gearbox is very light. So yeah, they could have put some more weight in there as well. What they did do is they did change the steering, the power steering system for this GTI, but I think that it could have been heavier. They also changed the suspension. It's much stiffer than a regular up. It's also 15 millimeters lower. The track front and rear is 8 millimeters wider. And it has a stiffer stabilizer at the rear. So they certainly tried their best to make it a bit, you know, a bit more sharp and a bit more playful. You can actually get that rear end out when you lift off mid-corner and you have enough speed, but you don't have the option to switch off the traction control or the ESP. So yeah, it always sort of kicks in and saves you. Okay, we'll turn around. Okay, let's do a pull away. Performance, as I said, 115 horsepower, 200 Newton meters. Bit of wheel spin, too much. So that's 0 to 100 kilometers an hour. 8.8 seconds is the number Volkswagen gives. And top speed 196 kilometers an hour. That's not bad. Yeah, I really like it. I think it's a really funky little warm hatch. And we don't have much of those. I mean, you can sort of compare it to a Renault Twingo GT, which has 110 horsepower and 898 cc 3-cylinder engine at the back. So does the Smart 4 Pruebas, but that's a bit more expensive. But the chassis is really nice. Like I said, it's quite comfortable, so it's not super stiff. And you really have to throw it into a corner and then wait sort of a moment for the suspension to set. But once it does, it's a really nice chassis, and it's actually more sort of sharp than I was expecting. It's not sharp, but it's more sharp than I thought it would be. But that sound coming from that little 3-cylinder is just so cool. So it's been a while since Volkswagen has had a car in this class, actually. The Lupo GTI was the last one, I think, which had 125 horsepower and 975 kilos. I think that's the last one. And like I said, there aren't much of these cars, so I do really think that this car is the only choice in this class, because that Twingo, I just don't really like it, and the Smart is more expensive. So yeah, kind of surprised by this little car. I really like it. And you know, like I said at the beginning, does it deserve a GTI label? I think it does. I think that because it's sort of a throwback to that old Golf GTI, it doesn't have to be super fast. It's a small little cheap car. I know, you know, that I just think that it doesn't have to be super fast to be fun, and I think that Volkswagen really understood that. Of course, by putting a GTI label on it, you know, more people are going to buy it, and I think that you wouldn't be disappointed if you bought this car. And I think that's the cool thing about these cars, that, you know, we drive a lot of very powerful, very fast cars, but if you really love cars, and you can still enjoy cars like this that are just fun and different and just do something that sort of, you know, that just puts a smile on your face, and this really does. So that's it for the Volkswagen Up GTI. I hope you enjoyed it. You can subscribe by clicking the big button right here. You can also check out this POV review, or go to this POV reviews playlist and check out some more. Thanks for watching, guys. See you at the next one. Bye.